It's Saturday night,
The kids are in bed,
which means we did it. We survived another week.
so let's talk about it.
From our latest homebrew project,
To kids' crafting projects.
it's just talking life with 2 young kids and 2 dogs. Grab your favorite beverage, sit back,
Relax.
and see where the conversation takes us.
Sometimes we don't even know until we get there. This is the Craft Parenting Podcast.
Hey everyone, welcome to this week's episode of the Craft Parenting Podcast. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Joe Ludwig, and with me is my lovely wife and co-host, Caroline. How's it going, Caroline?
Pretty good. The kids went down for bed with a little bit of fanfare, but nothing too dramatic. So that was nice, especially compared to the last few nights.
They do like to be dramatic.
I mean, it's really hard when you're so small and filled with so many big emotions.
So many emotions. Lily turned 2 recently.
And while she doesn't really have like what I would classify as the terrible twos, she's a little terrible.
It's like someone flipped a switch.
Yeah, it doesn't really help that Elliot's moving around a lot more now because she likes to shove him out of her way. And mostly he's just trying to get close to her to see what she's doing. And then she's just like, shove onto floor. And we're trying to...
Shut that down.
Yeah, correct that behavior. And we're trying to figure out how to do that now. Tips or tricks? Let us know, please.
Anyway, we have another great episode planned out for you this week. Hillary Dersch is back with us.
We kicked Steven out this time. We didn't let him come into the house.
Yeah, Steven abandoned his wife and went to Disney World. He didn't actually abandon his wife. He went to Disney World with his BFF, Steven.
Yes, Steven's BFF's name is Steven.
Yes.
It was a planned trip. Hillary knew all about it. She made the choice to not go. And we're glad that we got to hang out with her.
So we made some dinner, and Hillary made pumpkin chocolate chip cookies.
They were delicious.
Yeah, they were. And we had a great conversation. Well, you had a great conversation. You kicked me out too.
I mean, I do what I want.
Well, it's all about pregnancy and birthing and...
We'll figure out with the edit.
and maybe something else. Who knows? Anyway, we'll get to that soon. But first, let's go over some highlights from this past week.
This week, I delved back into Oma's recipe book, but it wasn't actually Oma's recipe book because Oma hasn't let me look at her recipe book yet. Mostly because I haven't gone over to Oma's house to go through her recipe book yet. No fault of Oma's, mostly fault of me.
Does she have a recipe book?
I don't know, but I can at least pick her brain. I mean, she's got all those recipes memorized somehow. I just have to get them from her. But I found a recipe that seemed pretty close for stuffed peppers. Then I realized that the Hungarian stuffed pepper recipe that I was reading, while it called out for the correct version of peppers, didn't call out paprika at all, which seemed like a crime.
Yeah, that is a little weird.
So I made some heavy modifications to the recipe to make it more like the stuffed peppers that we know and love. And I got a thumbs up from your family because I gave it to like your whole entire family, except for Oma.
Right, Oma wasn't there. But my mom and dad and sister and brother, your whole family was there too.
This is true. But they live in the basement. They're always here.
Yeah, so and then my brother came over as well.
And like, I know your sister's a picky eater, but I didn't remember how picky of an eater she was since I haven't like been around her all the time since you're not living at your parents' house anymore. She doesn't eat stuffed peppers. What kind of atrocity is that?
She doesn't eat the pepper around the stuffed.
No, she didn't eat the stuff inside the pepper either.
Really?
Really?
Hmm.
You sat across from her. All she had on her plate were mashed potatoes.
Really?
Oh my goodness.
I wasn't paying attention at all.
Nope. You were distracted by the delicious stuffed peppers.
I was distracted by the Lily who was being a 2-year-old.
She was. Because she has a booster seat now and does not know how to use it. So we're still flip-flopping between the booster seat and the high chair. One of these days.
No, but it was good. The stuffed peppers were good. I think my dad was impressed, which is...
I mean, when it comes to German cooking,
yeah.
that's saying a lot.
Yeah, I was impressed.
I mean, if you didn't say that you were impressed, you'd be sleeping on the couch tonight, so options are limited.
Well, okay.
Love you.
I'm saying this not under duress, but I guess now I am under duress. So we will move on.
So on Tuesday, I started to crochet again because I'm in a crafting group that's all people who knit and crochet for the most part. They do other things too, but the focus of the group is knitting and crochet. And they're doing a lesson, like a whole boot camp. Actually, it's called a boot camp. They're doing a whole boot camp on teaching knitters how to crochet. And I have crocheted in the past. Mom and myself took lessons years and years and years ago, but we never really got the knack for it. So I kind of just let it fall by the wayside and then eventually learned how to knit and then lost that skill for a little bit. Picked up crochet again, picked up knitting again, and now I'm trying to relearn how to crochet. So that's exciting because I'm also going to do a craft fair, hopefully in November, and I need to make things to sell at said craft fair. And I think Joe would appreciate it if I used up some of my yarn in the basement to make items to sell.
Hey, as long as I can close that door, I don't care what goes on behind it.
The mystery craft crap closet. As long as the door's closed, I can do whatever I want within reason.
I mean, we designed, Larry and I refinished the basement in 2020, and I specifically designed a closet for your craft supplies.
Call them by their proper name, Joe.
The craft crap supplies.
I love you. You love me. As long as I can close the door.
And I am working from home, so I felt it was important, since the basement is my, quote, office. I felt it was important to be able to close the clutter away behind a door. So that's what we did.
So right now, tenants are living in your half of the basement, but I have to share my half of the basement with Lily and Elliot because my half of the basement is a playroom. So being able to close the door is semi-imperative so the kids aren't constantly getting into my craft stuff in the future when they go play downstairs.
Moving on to the 15th, which is Wednesday.
I mean, nothing important happened on the 15th. There's nothing special about that day.
That day is the most important day of the year. That was the day that I was born.
Oh, yeah, that was your birthday, wasn't it? Is this where I'm supposed to sing happy birthday, or did I already do that in that podcast that we did where you turned ancient?
No, you already did that.
Okay, good.
But Wednesday was my birthday.
Happy belated birthday.
Yeah. Well, by the time this comes out, it was
like super long time ago. You're super
2 weeks
ancient
ago.
now.
Yeah. So I guess that makes me...
You are wise and ancient and thus all-knowing, or something like that, according to super deep Olaf in Frozen 2.
But Lily had her 2-year checkup. Do you have the stats on you?
I do.
So how tall is she?
She is 36.25 inches. Homegirl is 3 feet tall.
And for those playing at home, carry the 2. That is 3 feet tall plus a 1/4 inch.
Yeah, good job.
3 feet.
Yeah, and she's
2 years old.
2.
And what do they say about girls specifically in their height at 2?
Oh, yeah. If you double their height at 2, that's typically how tall they end up being. So I'm looking at a 6-foot daughter. So I'm just going to be constantly looking up to her because she's going to be amazing and ridiculously tall.
If she wears heels, she'll be taller than me. Also, we invited Hillary to come over for dinner.
We did.
What do we have? We had barbecue.
We did. We had pulled pork. You made us all pulled pork, and it was very yummy.
And a crock pot.
Because low and slow, and we do not currently own a smoker, nor do we have plans to buy one. We don't really have room for any. I mean, it wouldn't technically be in the house, but I'm pretty sure Zoe would attempt to live in the smoker anytime it wasn't in use.
Brother has a smoker, right?
He does. We can just go over to their backyard and use theirs.
Yeah, but the whole point of the smoker is to
infuse it with
it's a slow
flavor.
cooker too, right?
Yes, it's a different type of cooking, and it also imbibes it with some of the wood chippy flavors, whatever wood you use.
Yeah.
To actually create all of your smoke.
Yeah, but it's like a crock pot. So
it's a slow burn.
Waka waka waka. And you did the tss, like you got burnt.
No, I did ba-dum-ts. I was my own little whatever. I used to know what that was called. Oh my goodness. Why did my brain drop
A
it?
rim shot?
That one. I did my own rim shot.
No, but we had barbecue and...
Hillary made delicious pumpkin chocolate chip cookies.
Yeah, we mentioned the cookies.
Which you don't really eat pumpkin flavored things. I ate a whole faux pumpkin pie last year because you did not eat any of it with me. Now it was delicious and like 20 out of 10 would do again.
A faux? Like
it was
fake?
A no-bake pumpkin pie, so it called out for pie filling, like pumpkin pie filling, that you put a bunch of spices in, and then you put whipped cream on top of it, and then you chilled it for like 2 hours. I have the recipe somewhere, because it's really good that I printed it out, because I tried to find it later the same day, and I couldn't find it anywhere anymore, but it was so good.
The big tech oligarchs have censored the no-bake pumpkin pie.
Apparently. It might have also been one of those like weird recipe videos where like they put the recipe as a comment. I don't entirely remember. I just remember being really glad that I saved the recipe before it disappeared for all of time. Except nothing really disappears from the internet. You just have to know where to look.
Well, Thursday we went to Murray's Tiny Cove.
We did. It's our first time going there, like together. I don't recall going as a child, but maybe I've been there before.
I don't think I've ever been there.
Yeah, and your family wouldn't quite fit either, both height-wise and just like space-wise. There aren't a lot, at least the dining rooms that we were in did not have a lot of seating options if your party was greater than 6 people.
Your mom mentioned an upstairs, though.
She did. She mentioned there was like a bar upstairs. We never went up there to find out.
So maybe there's more seating.
Yeah, we'll have to find out the next time we go.
But Murray's Tiny Cove is in Cheviot.
Yes, it is in Cheviot.
It's on the west side of Cincinnati. Cheviot is technically inside the city of Cincinnati, but they're their own city.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird.
They're their own little municipalities. Like they have their own police force, their own garbage service, all those sorts of fun things. They have their own mayor. Because we parked near his designated spot. Because we parked near their designated parking spot.
They have a mayor?
They do.
Wow.
I mean, the city of North Bend has a mayor. Did you even know the city of North Bend existed before you worked with the mayor?
No. I knew the street North Bend existed.
Yeah. So since it was a Thursday, well, one, we found out they were closed on Tuesdays, because originally we were planning to go there on Tuesday. So we had to reschedule for Thursday. But apparently sometime recently in the Inquirer, they did a very big feature on Murray's Tiny Cove. So we thought, oh, it's Thursday. It's a really random day of the week. We shouldn't have any issues getting a table. And no, we get there and it's packed. And they say they're slightly short-staffed too. Yeah,
everyone is right now, unfortunately.
So we had to wait a while for our food, but it was definitely worth the wait.
But would you consider it a steakhouse?
I mean, yes, because they have a lot of steak, but they also have some like more budget-friendly items on their menu. So you don't have to go there and spend a ridiculous amount of money per person.
So it's not Jeff Ruby.
No.
But it's a steakhouse.
Yeah.
Like on par with the Longhorn or Outback.
I would say yes.
Yeah.
Especially because they have a variety of food options as well.
And what's the theme? There's like a theme, I guess. It's kind of like old-timey.
Yeah, it's kind of like old-timey American. They have a model train on the back of the bar that's just train cars that all represent different beers. Some of them foreign, some of them domestic. I wasn't able to catch all of them.
Yeah. Apparently, well, recently, a movie filmed there.
Yeah, I should probably look that up. Let me look that up.
Few moments later.
Carol.
Oh, yeah, one of them's called Carol.
I believe that was a George Clooney movie.
No, so George Clooney considered shooting a restaurant scene at Murray's for his Ides of March movie in 2011, but the crew felt our ceilings were too low to get the shots they wanted. Because the ceilings are really low in Murray's Tiny Cove. Joe's head almost brushes the ceiling in a few places, and he's a bit over 6 feet. I can't imagine Bobby trying to go in there without having to duck down almost all the time. Bobby's a friend of a friend who is very, very tall.
So Act of Contrition was filmed there, and the movie Carol. Act of Contrition, I think, is like a indie film. Carol is a mainstream film. I haven't seen either of these. But let's move on. So Saturday, we went to get coffee.
We did. We went to Java Jackets because they have breakfast and coffee. early, and I needed breakfast and coffee because the children decided that they wanted to wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning and stay awake, which was fun when you want to sleep in on a Saturday.
So much fun.
And my friend Molly came over today. So in order to prepare for her coming over, we were going to make brunch for lunch. And after we finished our mini breakfast at Java Jackets, we get in the van and head to our favorite Kroger that's near our house. And as we're driving down the road, we noticed that there are cars stopped at a really random spot where cars don't often stop. And oh, hey, there are 2 dogs running alongside the road. They both look to be like some kind of poodle mix as far as like how I know dog breeds. I'm not like a super expert on dog breeds. I was able to catch one of the dogs.
Yeah, we stopped. Everyone else just
Kind of kept going.
they just ignored it and just left. They just try not to hit the dog, and then just went on with their business.
Yeah. So I was able to catch, because there was a female dog and a male dog, and I was able to catch the female dog and get her in the back of the van. And
She was friendly. There wasn't any danger.
yeah, because we had kids in the back of the van. So as soon as I got out of the van to attempt to catch these dogs, because like we don't keep leashes in the van, though at this point I'm starting to think that I need to keep leashes in the van, because this is the second time that I've caught a dog in a relatively short period of time. If when I got out of the van, the dogs would have immediately bolted or seemed to act any kind of aggressive, it would have been, okay, sweet, have a nice day. Hopefully someone else has the patience to deal with you. I am not going to risk introducing you to my children. But they both seem really friendly and just kind of like, hey, what's up? We're just chilling out over here. So I was able to catch the female dog and read her tags and left a voicemail on at her owner's house.
No one answered. This is the quote owner because you looked up the tag on the auditor's website.
Yeah, so the Hamilton County Auditor is really nice, where you can do a reverse lookup on dog tags to get the owner's information in case if you find a dog. So our dogs have 4 forms of identification. They have their rabies tag, which has a self-identifying number on it. And I think there's a number that you can call on that to try to figure out who owns them, but it's like super convoluted to get through that. There's the Hamilton County dog tag, which we live in Hamilton County. So through our auditor, we have to register our dogs every year. But that says who we are, where we live, how to get a hold of us, and then what the dog's name is. So I learned that the dog that we had caught was Pixie. And then, so in addition to rabies and the county dog tag, we also have a custom dog tag that has our dog's name and Joe's cell phone number on it. So if the dogs get out, they're calling our cell phone instead of a landline. Even though we live in the 21st century, we do not have a landline. But in addition to those 3 things that are on their collars, they're also microchipped, which is also attached to Joe's cell phone. So if the dogs lose their collars, there's still a way to figure out who they are. But also through the auditor website, I was able to find out that she lived in Coleraine. And we were I don't really think we were in Bridgetown. We were about 12 miles away from home, according to the auditor website.
Yeah, so we don't know if that information is accurate.
Or if they were being dog sat. They seemed well loved and well taken care of. It wouldn't have surprised me if they had actually done a 12+ mile journey. I mean, I know we took our dogs to Red River Gorge and didn't really do a whole lot of conditioning with them beforehand. And they did 8+ miles a day in the gorge, no problem, which is just straight ups and downs. And really, it was like 8 miles for us. It was probably closer to 10 to 12 miles for them because they like to run back and forth.
Yeah.
So they run ahead and they run back and then they run ahead and then they run back, and they're not necessarily with us like all of the time. Like they're always within sight, but they like to do that double backing. So we attempted to catch the other dog and he just kind of decided that he would rather go away. And we're like, well, we really wish you well. Another gentleman had joined us to help try to catch the dog as well. He went after that dog while we waited for the police to arrive, because upon calling the non-emergency number, they said, well, just straight up call the cops.
Yeah.
And we were like, okay, well, we'll wait here until an officer arrives then. So then a fire truck joined us, and then another police officer joined the fire truck, and then the police officer who was actually dispatched to help us came. We think we had like half of the Green Township police force helping us find this dog.
Yeah. I don't know. But you said that Pixie was 13.
Yeah, according to the auditor website, she was 13. She seemed like she was doing really good if she was in fact 13.
Yeah, so
She had some she didn't seem super energetic, but she definitely had some life in her. I think the male dog was probably a bit younger.
Yeah. And we were on Wesselman, which is kind of this backwater road. It's very curvy.
It runs along a creek and it's heavily wooded.
People tend to speed.
Yeah, so
on this road.
I felt terrible because we had attempted to get the boy dog, and so he ran along the road away from us. And I'm just like, okay. I was hoping he was going to go back into the woods, but instead he attempted to cross the road and almost got hit. And I'm like, oh my goodness, please just come here and let me keep you safe.
Yeah, we probably saved Pixie's life.
There's a decent chance because I don't think she had her wits about her as much. She didn't seem to have a lot of pep in her step at that point, which is why I wouldn't be surprised if they went 12 miles. So pro tip, please use your cell phone number in association with your dogs. So if they get lost, it's easier for you to find them, because I don't know if they were out and about trying to find their dogs and we could have told them, hey, come look in this direction. I also don't know if they were potentially like on vacation and somebody else was dog sitting them.
I don't know.
We dropped Pixie off with a police officer. We had both the kids in the car and they were getting ridiculously cranky at this point. So we couldn't stay any longer to help with the search. And Molly was at the house. So we're like, okay, we can't run along the woods. Good luck to all of you. You have flashy lights on your car so you can get people to stop. And we headed home.
And your mom called me out, or us out, because she's like, you only stopped so you could have content for your podcast.
Oh yeah, she did say that. And I almost completely forgot that we had done that today. It almost didn't make it's not in the show notes.
No, it's not in the show notes.
I had almost completely forgotten that we had done that today.
So Caroline's mom, we did not stop.
No, I always stop to try to find dogs, to try to get dogs, because I hope that someone will do the same if Zoe and or Clara get out. And if I exit the vehicle and the dog immediately bolts or seems to be acting in any kind of aggressive manner, I say a quick prayer for them, wish them well, and continue on with my day.
When I was driving down Wesselman going towards Kroger, I wasn't thinking, man, I wish we had more content for this podcast, and I wish 2 stray dogs would appear so we could go catch them.
Yeah.
No, I did not think that. I think we just had a heart and no one was stopping. How is it that we have 2 animals, man's best friend, supposedly?
And these aren't small dogs either. These were very large dogs.
Yeah, and on a road where cars speed and it's very curvy, and one, you don't want to kill an animal like that because
ideally
dog.
No.
2, if someone did hit it, that could hurt the human.
Yeah.
So you could have potential damage to a dog, someone's pet, or damage to someone's car / a person.
Well, or trying to avoid hitting the dog, you end up hitting another car.
No, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
It's just it's like a deer situation, right?
Yeah.
I've had friends, I've had cousins.
Your sister.
Yeah. Who have hit deer, and while deer it's not completely comparable to a dog. It's still similar situation where there's something that could potentially be in the middle of the road and someone could swerve, and you said there's a creek there. So, I mean, it made sense for us to stop if we could safely, which we did.
We pulled off into a driveway.
We went off into a driveway. We were safe. Kids were safe. You were looking for signs of aggression. There were none.
I didn't go play in traffic with the dogs. I stayed on my side of the road.
Right. Well, we did what we could. And I was just surprised that no one stopped.
Yeah. Because
tried to help because they saw us doing it. It's like, okay.
Well, getting off of our soapboxes, Molly came over for lunch. It was probably a relatively good thing that she came over, that she got to the house while we weren't home, because I wasn't going to let her in the house if she didn't bring me farm fresh eggs. And unfortunately, she had no farm fresh eggs to give.
Molly is your friend.
Molly is my friend who has a ridiculous amount of chickens.
Yeah.
She loves them all and takes care of them very well, which is one of the reasons why she didn't have any eggs for us. One of her chickens wasn't feeling well, so she kind of is treating and quarantining the whole flock and doesn't feel comfortable with distributing eggs at the moment. Yeah. So she's being super safe about it, which I can't fault her for. But also, I would like some eggs. They're really yummy. And I was going to pay her like a bajillion dollars for them. Like not literally a bajillion dollars, but I was going to pay her more than her going rate for them because they're so good and it's so hard for me to find them.
But you got to use your spatula maker?
I did. So after we made spätzle for chicken goulash a little while ago, I bit the bullet and bought a spätzle maker, and it worked fantastically because we didn't go to Kroger. We didn't really know what we were going to do for lunch with Molly because I didn't have the ingredients to make French toast for everyone. So instead, I decided, well, we've got this freezer chicken breast that we normally put on salads. I can make like a kind of faux goulash with this, and we can just kind of see what happens. And it can kind of be a tester for my crock pot recipe that I'm putzing around in my head. And it didn't get 2 thumbs up from you, but you cleared your plate.
I did.
Molly got seconds, and we learned that while both sides of her family have pretty decent German heritage, she's never had spätzle before.
Spatula, for those who don't know, is just its homemade dumplings.
Yeah, it's like a homemade egg noodle, and there isn't really a whole lot to them, but they're really, really yummy. And we make them at the Donauschwaben all the time. And now I can make them at home whenever I want. But as all good things must do, eventually our visit with Molly had to come to an end because she had other plans in Cincinnati for the afternoon. And that meant that we had to actually get our ish together and start prepping the house.
Because we are getting carpet.
Yep. We're getting new carpet on Monday, and that means that we have to get everything that we can off of the floors in our bedrooms and the living room / dining room.
So much stuff.
Yeah.
So little time.
So we got a lot of stuff done today. We have more stuff to do tomorrow, but we're also going to Kings Island tomorrow. So we're not going to be happy about doing things tomorrow, but we also don't have a choice.
So that's what we did this week.
Yep, it was a fun week. I am both looking forward to and dreading next week because I don't know what time I'm going to go to bed Sunday night. Putting away crap so they can come in and install carpet Monday morning. All
right, so now it's time for What's Bugging Caroline in Children's TV. Caroline, take it away.
So y'all remember the start of the pandemic when Tiger King came out and we were like, whoa.
I try to forget about that.
What is this? What is going on? Well, today I was looking for an episode of Reading Rainbow to watch with Lily, and I saw one with a tiger, and I was like, no, it wasn't even a tiger. It was like a puma or a jaguar. No, it was some kind of tan wild cat. And I was like, oh, this looks interesting.
A bobcat?
Maybe it was a bobcat. I don't know. It was also very grainy because this is video from a very long time ago. I was like, oh, this seems interesting. Maybe we're going to learn about cats today. Well, we did in fact learn about cats, and we did in fact revisit the musical Cats. Similar footage was used / the very same footage.
I think it was the exact same.
They used different cuts of it, so it wasn't word for word, like it wasn't shot for shot the exact same footage in this episode as Aunt Lena does the Roomba. Like there was some stuff that wasn't in it, and there was a bunch of stuff that it was different, but it was still pretty much the same. But during this episode, LeVar is sitting next to adult tigers or next to tiger cubs, and he's at some place. He's at some place where they're training tigers.
Jordy is the real Tiger King.
Yeah, apparently LeVar is the real Tiger King. Whatever. Props to you for using his Star Trek name. But like they're like in Tiger King, they go over like a lot of the quote unquote abuse that happens at all of these tiger places that they follow, where like they're handling cubs a lot and like they're stressing the cubs out and stuff. We literally saw that on camera because this woman is holding a cub and the cub is like trying to constantly get out of her hands, is constantly like trying to bite her and like hissing at her like, please get away from me. And she's like, hey, see, it's fine. This is what he does. This is how I train him not to do this anymore. I'm like, the cub is obviously in distress. So like, we're not going to watch this video ever again. And the only reason why we continued to watch it was because I didn't want to have to start another episode from scratch when Lily clearly needed to go to bed. So I'm hoping if we go one and done, she won't remember anything from that episode and we can just completely forget about all of the tiger abuse. Because yes, please forget about it. Like, make it go away.
All right. I noticed that you have an adult beverage.
I do.
And I have an adult beverage.
You did?
Yeah. But we were drinking the same thing, so.
We were, because we're all cute and adorable today.
What are we drinking?
I am currently drinking a Christian Moorline Brewing Woots Marzen Oktoberfest. It is 5.8% ABV and 21 IBUs. The description is, Prost! Put on your lederhosen and get ready to raise a stein. Our strong German heritage shines through with Woots. The full-bodied Oktoberfest has a lightly toasted character with a touch of sweetness and caramel aromas, making it perfect for quenching your thirst from all that polka dancing. It's a Marzen. Like, I don't super dislike it, but I'm also like, it's not my favorite Oktoberfest, but we've already covered Spaten is my favorite Oktoberfest.
For a beer style like Oktoberfest, you have to go with the classics, right? You have to go with the Germany, the beer made in Germany, the core ones in Munich. Like that is Oktoberfest, right?
Yes. And
this is kind of,
it's definitely a bit more American.
it's different, yeah.
It's pretty It's pretty heavy on the malt, which
It has a weird aftertaste, yeah. Which I think is the malt. It's like very caramely, not so much toasty or bready.
yeah, like it's definitely an Americanized version of an Oktoberfest.
No, but it's good. It's kind of, I mean, I'm glad Christian Moorline has such a rich history in Cincinnati.
They really do.
And we kind of go over that a little bit in our Bachfest episode, I think, a little bit. But it's makes me happy that with all their troubles, that they still have beer in the market.
Yeah.
It's still a thing. I'm a marketing guy. I studied marketing. I studied branding. I'm having trouble grasping their new brand.
I'm a little confused by the name and what it's supposed to mean.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't really do a whole lot of research.
I'm gonna Google it.
3 days later.
Oh, it's a type of steel. It's a crucible steel characterized by a pattern of bands and high carbon content. I feel like I might have learned about this in one of my engineering classes, so maybe I should have known.
Yeah, so the names of their beers now with the new brand has a lot to do with like woodworking and steelworking and stuff like that.
Yeah, because their legacy began with a Bavarian blacksmith who immigrated to Cincinnati, Ohio. So they're really going with that. That's from their website.
Oh, gotcha.
I forgot how heavy they went with the like blacksmith type stuff.
Yeah. So it's just a lot. It's like a 180 of what they were. So it's growing on me. I mean, the brand is growing on me, but it's kind of like, what? Okay.
Yeah.
But it's good. I like it. Cheers to the weekend, and Lord help us in the weekend, because starting tomorrow, we are going to have to do it all over again. More crazy adventures are ahead, and we will make sure to share them with you each week right here on the Craft Parenting Podcast. All right, Caroline, it is time to take the microphones on the road, and you're going to go talk to Hillary.
And I'm going to kick you and Steven completely out of this conversation because it's all for the ladies. Though really, lots of people can learn things from this episode. Like if you have a loved one in your life who is very pregnant, they probably have questions about some of these things, or you can become educated about how some of these things work.
Buy lots of chocolate and give it to her. That's my advice.
If they like chocolate, basically figure out what their favorite foods are and just go really heavy into that for a while. Know that it might not always work though, because sometimes your tastes change during pregnancy.
All right, so let's pack up the microphones and let's go talk to Hillary.
This is your friendly reminder that we are not a podcast that you should use to seek medical, financial, tax advice, anything like health and safety related. We are not the experts. We do not have degrees in any of this. We just have life experience, and we can share our life experiences with you. But these decisions or any questions should be raised to your doctor because they know you and your medical history better than me, because there's like a 10% chance that I actually know you as a person. Today we're doing things a little bit differently. Usually Joe and myself talk about some topic, and occasionally we'll bring in friends as guests. Well, this time we decided to kick all of the boys out of the room because we are going to talk about pregnancy. So I have brought my lovely friend Hillary,
Yay.
who's been on the podcast before, so we can talk about pregnancy because, Hillary, do you have some news?
I'm pregnant. I know.
What? I didn't know that.
I'm only 22 weeks along, so more than halfway done. 22 weeks today. So.
And Hillary,
Yay.
I have some news for you.
Uh-oh. You're also pregnant?
I'm really fat.
That would have been a crazy announcement if you had been like, I'm also pregnant. Oh my god.
And you know that's something that I would do too.
That would have been perfect. Oh my goodness.
Not
I'm
pregnant.
a little disappointed that you're not pregnant now, Caroline.
You wouldn't get the car seat and the stroller if I was
true.
pregnant.
Oh, okay, that's true. I need all of the things. Luckily, Caroline is regifting me things, even though I didn't get that dang bassinet.
Hey, you told me the day after I gave it away.
That's the most painful thing.
Like
Oh,
48
man.
hours, and it would have been all yours.
I don't remember how many weeks along I was at that point. I think I was
Even if you could have been like,
12.
hey,
Ooh.
my friend Becca was the one that gave this to you. Like, I'd rather kind of like keep it in our friends group somehow. Like, I would have been a
No,
little sus
Caroline.
about it.
You would have been like, you don't need it. You don't need it. Because you know how much I don't like to like hoard things, because kind of grew up with family that has a lot of hoarding of items, and so I'm already so nervous about the toy situation, like how many toys are going to be in our house.
Have you seen our house?
Yeah, but you have a bigger house. Our house is so tiny. It's going to be real painful when we start accumulating more things. Like, we already have a high chair set up in there, and it is not like, it takes up a ton of room. I'm just like, ugh.
So like our high chairs are high chairs.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a chair on stilts. We can take the chair off of stilts and we can put it on a regular chair. But your high chair, I haven't seen it in person, but I've seen pictures. It's basically a chair on top of a mini table.
Yeah.
So until the kid gets to like the Elliott stage where they're pulling themselves up onto things or have some kind of like leg height, you can use that little table to put stuff on.
Yeah.
So like all of their bibs and their spoons could potentially like live on that table. Well, I mean, you do have 2 dogs, so
Yeah,
maybe it'd be
right.
more like toys.
It'll have to be something that's not, the dogs can't, well, and even the toys, like, that's the other thing that stresses me out, is so many kids' toys just look like dog toys, and my dog will, it's going to be hard to get him to tell the difference. 'Cause
So
he loves
it's
toys.
easier to train the dog than it is to train the child.
Yeah,
So
I can imagine.
It's easy to get Clara and Zoe to leave Lily's toys alone, though we have gotten to the point where we've had to lock Zoe out of the living room if we're not home
Oh.
because she had 3 strikes.
Oh.
And she destroyed a book, a pretend CD, and maybe another book. She ended up destroying, or we didn't let her get to strike 3. We said 2 strikes and you're out. And so she was no longer allowed to be in the living room unsupervised. Clara likes to go after stuffies, but we've pretty much got her trained to leave all of Lily's stuffies alone. But Lily loves to play with their toys. She walks around with like
yeah.
these crusty dog toys
Crusty.
all of the time. Like, this is my favorite toy ever. And I'm like, it crunches from the
Oh.
dog slobber.
Yeah, that's
Like-
going to be a lot of our toys, I think.
Can we play with this stuffy instead that's yours and not covered in dog drool?
Oh my
No,
gosh.
Mom, this is my favorite.
Well, that's so funny. I could totally see that being a thing. I think that it's going to be interesting because I don't know if Teller would chew up a book. We don't have obviously we don't have like books laying around, but like when the kid has board books, like that's going to be interesting.
So it's a
To-
systematic problem with Zoe. Zoe has had this problem since about 2015, and we got
Mhm.
her in 2014.
Yeah.
We're pretty sure that Zoe is convinced that reading means that you're eating a book. So she's just trying to read like the people do.
Let me tell you this. Now, Zoe could probably still chew it, but I found these books called Indestructibles on Amazon from one of my clients or somewhere. Somehow I ran across these books. It was probably TikTok if I'm real honest. I am obsessed with TikTok. But they're like these indestructible books, and one of my clients bought them and they love them. And they're like, you can wash, they're paper, they're like a paper kind of substance, but you can like wash them and wipe them off, and the kids can chew on them and everything else. And like, and they're really reasonably priced. Like they're $5, I think, a book.
I think
$5 or $6 a book.
I think we had the old version of these books, like
Oh, really?
the 1980s version of these books, and Lily tore them up.
Oh, really?
So
Well, I mean,
these ones might be better than the 1980s version.
like one of them, like the first one that comes up is called like All About Weather, a first weather book for kids, and it's $5.99 on Amazon. And yeah, they're like 100% washable. They say like all these good features to them. So I mean, I like the price on that book too. I usually, those kind of books are like, it's $12, and you're like, I don't know if that's worth it. So anyway, I'm gonna get some of those. I put some of those on my registry. So
Some things are worth the money, some things definitely are not, but it's a personal preference thing.
right.
So for our lovely listeners, this conversation is just going to be completely all over the place because that's how Hillary and myself talk.
It's true.
So we're just going to bounce from thing to thing.
So I guess I could go back and kind of do my introduction here. I said I'm currently 22 weeks pregnant today, right? Over halfway there. This is my first ever pregnancy at 31 years old.
Hey, you beat out being a geriatric pregnancy. So
Well, if I want a second kid, like, and I want to put any amount of space in between the children,
then you'll be geriatric.
then I
for your
will be
second one.
geriatric. So
Because anything
that is what it is.
35 years and up, you are a geriatric pregnancy.
Yeah.
Because you're old.
You're old at that point. I mean, I felt old when I turned 30. I mean, like, I know friends that are 30 and they're like, I'm not old. I still feel that. I'm like, no, I think once I turn 30, I'm definitely feeling like I'm turning a little bit of a page here in like the age range. Like it definitely felt like a big change.
Yeah, like I can still do things, but I'm a lot more tired and sore about it.
Yeah.
I'm like, did I really want to, like, we're going to go to Kings Island on Sunday.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, I want to ride Banshee. I want to ride Orion. I want to ride Timberwolf, whatever that's the name of the wooden roller coaster,
Mystic
right?
Timbers.
Mystic Timbers. Yeah. But like, do I want to?
Yes, you do. Okay, so you want to ride? You've ridden Diamondback?
Yes.
So Diamondback is my favorite ride at Kings Island. It's like one of my favorite coasters.
You should
It's-
ride it with us this weekend.
Oh yeah, thanks, Caroline. You're really helping right now. So it's my favorite coaster, and we actually took my niece and nephews, the ones that live in Wisconsin. We took them all to Kings Island a month ago, maybe.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, about a month ago, and I couldn't ride anything at Kings Island.
No, and
Nothing.
you're basically the bag lady at that point.
Oh yeah, like I was like, oh, maybe I'll be able to ride like the antique cars. No, every single sign at Kings Island said you can't ride it. It's like
they don't want any kind of liability.
Yeah, they don't. I was like, wow. I was like, that's fine. It's all good. But like when you're walking around all day in the sun and you don't get to ride anything, I'm like, this is not worth it.
You
like,
mean you didn't want to get on the scrambler?
Oh my gosh. I know I wanted to. I wanted to get on everything, but I wasn't allowed to. Baby said no. So that was not fun. Then by the end of the day, like when we got around to lunchtime, I was like, I ate my pizza, and then I told Steven, I was like, we have to leave soon because I just wasn't feeling good. I think it was just not getting to like get cooled off on the coasters and not getting to like do things. It was just like,
I mean, in your position, I would have been like, hey, Steven, while you guys are in line for Diamondback, you're going to give me your credit card and I'm going to go get an icy.
oh, I did. I mean, like,
and
I did
while
that
you guys
too.
are in line for the racer, I'm going to get your credit card and I'm going to go get an icy.
Well, I did. I went and I got a funnel cake. And I think that's kind of what did it too, was like the food. Like I usually don't eat that kind of weird food combinations there. And then like I had a funnel cake, and then when I had pizza, I was like, ugh. I was like, I think I'm done. And like currently, Steven is in Disney World without me.
Well, no.
I was
He's not in
invited.
Disney World. He's at Universal
He's
Studios
at Universal now with his best friend, with his best guy friend, I guess. My mother-in-law is also there. She takes each niece or nephew to Disney World. Like each one of them gets a trip with grandma to go do that. And so they got to meet up with them there.
Can
But
she adopt me?
I know, right? She does every single kid. Like I'm like, wow, she's committed. She has my mother-in-law. My baby this will be her 11th grandchild, and this will be my mom's first grandchild. So
Yeah.
like that's a big difference. They were both super excited, but it was interesting to see it was like, oh my gosh, it's like amazing to me that like my mother-in-law has this will be 11. Like so she takes each of her grandkids to Disney World, and Steven and his best friend are there. I was invited, but I didn't feel like when I normally go with Steven and his best friend Steven Cross, when I go with them, they like book it between every ride, and I have like
Yeah.
these tiny little legs, and they're just like walking, and I'm like running to keep up with them, and I'm like, I am not doing that this time. time. Like, I'm not going to be walking to every ride and then not get to ride anything.
Yeah. And like there'd be more stuff that you could do at Disney. Like you
Yeah.
wouldn't be able to ride the teacups, but you could probably ride Dumbo. And like
Yeah.
there wouldn't be like tons of warnings all over Dumbo saying don't get on this ride.
Right.
You might be able to ride like Peter Pan, but you also might not. I'm not sure about
Yeah.
because like but you could ride It's a Small World.
I don't know if I could have ridden the new ride. Like, they were super excited about Rise of the Resistance.
Well, yeah, like Rise of the Resistance. I'm not sure on that
or
one.
like Mickey's Runaway Railroad. Like, those
Yeah.
are the new rides. Like, I've been to Disney several times, been very lucky. And so I kind of already knew what they were going to do and everything else. But there was like a few new rides that I know I wouldn't have been able to ride anyways. So it's like, do I go and be disappointed in Florida where
Yeah.
it's hot? Or do I stay here at home where it's also hot, but I don't have to find anybody to watch the dogs? I don't know. It worked out just fine, but like I've been lucky and gotten to go in the past, so it's fine. But like, he's also sending me pictures of like margaritas, and I'm like, why are you doing this to me? Don't be sending me things I'm not allowed to drink either. Like,
yeah. Well, and so during my pregnancies, one, it was pretty easy with Elliot because there wasn't a whole lot of places we could go anyway because the Rona was raging around.
COVID.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But when I was pregnant with Lily, we would go to all these different breweries that didn't have food. So it's like, okay, I got to bring snacks. And Joe would order his first beer. And he's like, okay, I'm going to order another beer. And I'm like, okay, this is what beer you're ordering. Like, you don't get to say you are ordering this beer and I get 2 sips of it.
Oh my goodness.
And that's all that I get.
Oh,
but
wow.
I am tasting this too.
Oh, that's funny. Oh yeah, I forgot you did some tastings. I don't know. I'm just, it's my first pregnancy, so I'm very like, I feel very restricted, but at the same time, like, I'm getting used to the restrictions and I don't mind them because they're for the baby, but I know everybody's different in like what they restrict themselves to do, right? So like,
Yeah.
I told you, I was like, I'm not gonna eat any soft serve ice cream because I've heard that, depending on how they clean the machines, listeria.
Meanwhile, I knew nothing about that and ate
Yeah.
soft serve ice cream throughout both of my pregnancies.
Right. So it's like, well, so I feel like listeria is like this big scary thing that nobody gets ever, but like everybody's really scared about it in pregnancy. I don't know.
Well, so, because from what I have heard in regards to listeria, the problem isn't so much for you, it's for the kid themselves. So, like,
Yeah.
you get listeria, you're fine, but the baby might not be able to fight it off.
Yeah.
Or something along those lines. Again, not
And-
a medical expert. I've just
Right.
listened to a lot of podcasts.
It's just, it's scary how sick you can get off almost any food too. I mean, and I've never felt so restricted. Like we did the fasting thing before I got pregnant, which I think is one of the ways that helped me get pregnant because I lost some weight.
Yeah.
So I think that was helpful. But then like once I was pregnant, then I was like, I can't do the fasting thing anymore, and that was weird. And then I felt so restricted because there was all these things I'm not supposed to eat. But I have been really, really lucky. Like I said, like I really haven't felt. Everybody's like, how are you feeling? And I'm like, I felt great. Like I haven't felt.
Obviously, you're
Knock
having a
on
boy.
wood. Yeah, right. I know. I'm like, maybe who knows? I knock on wood. I didn't really have any morning sickness. I really didn't have very many food aversions. Like there was a few times where I was like, I don't really know about that. And then I would just eat something else and it was fine. But like, I really didn't have any morning sickness, which was great because I thought I'd be sicker than a dog. I was like, I'm going to have that hyperemesis. I was like, that's going to be
Yeah, the one where
me.
you like are in the hospital on an IV
Oh,
drip.
yeah, for like 9. I mean, people have. I know a friend's mom who had like 5 kiddos. I think she has 5 kids total, and she's like, oh yeah, I know. I had that. I felt like I had the flu for 9 months for every kid. I'm like,
I'm
how
sorry,
could you
but-
have 5?
Yeah, no thank you. After a while, not dealing with it.
I know. I was like, I'd be done at like 1 or 2. I couldn't even imagine being sick for being that sick for 9 months. Like,
Yeah.
if I this has been just so easy, and I was gonna say I feel extremely lucky to have such an easy fertility journey too and pregnancy so far because I know
Mhm.
so many people that struggle so hard with fertility, and I don't want to be dismissive of anybody's struggles. So like I'm super excited about our baby and everything else, and I just feel so strongly that there's so many people out there that would make such amazing parents, and I hate to watch people's fertility struggles. Like it's so hard. Like
Yeah.
that has been. I told Steven, I said when we first started trying, I said this could take us 5 years. Like I was.
Yeah, you never know.
You don't. And I was like, I just told him, I was like, we need to start trying again. Like you said, like could be geriatric if it takes me 5 years and I don't get pregnant until 35. Like, and
Yeah.
so I was like, could take us 5 years. Knowing my history, I have PCOS, and my mother had like 3 miscarriages before she had my sister, and then she had 3 before my sister. Then she had 1, 2, 3, 4. I think she had 5 miscarriages with 2 viable babies between my sister and I.
Which, I mean, I don't even know what I would do at that point.
I know. I mean, she just said she was like, I bargained with God to like keep you in my womb long enough to meet you, because when
Yeah.
she finally got pregnant with me, it was like a huge miracle because she had all these other miscarriages and like has named named 2 other babies that passed away because they were, the viable babies. And
Yeah.
that was so hard for me to hear all her stories growing up and then be like terrified to try.
Well, and
for
part
having
of that
kids,
is
'cause I was like, I'm not
her.
gonna be able to have them.
Yeah,
I wasn't sure.
Part of that is like her informing you, hey, this is a thing
Mm-hmm.
that I went through, and like you are so loved, and this is my journey that like you were so desperately wanted.
Yeah.
But then it's also like putting this thing in the back of your mind where you're like, what if this happens to me?
Oh yeah. I mean, well, and growing up too, she's a mother baby nurse, so she
Mhm.
deals with babies after labor and delivery. Like she did some labor and delivery, but then she's over 40 years now. She's been a mother baby nurse, and so she's desperately wanted grandkids and everything else. But she always told us all these stories growing up of super young moms and these people coming into the hospital just not prepared or
Yeah.
being on all kinds of drugs or whatever. And I mean it was just horrible to hear these stories. And it was like I think she definitely like scared Heather and I a little bit straight, like make sure that if you want a baby you
are ready.
you are ready, and if you don't you are protected. And she gave us all that education, I think, and it was I wouldn't change any of that. Like I think that was all really, really good information and really good education and stuff for me. I mean, my sister is 7 years older than me and she's not had any children, and I'm not sure if she's interested in that. But the pressure was on after poor Heather. Mom didn't pressure either one of us to have kids until Heather got married 6 years ago, and then she started sending
Really, was
Heather
that
and
6
I.
years ago?
Oh no, not 6 years ago. Heather got married 3 years ago.
Yeah, I was gonna say that had to been closer to 3 years ago.
But what it was the 6 was from on her wedding day. That was Stephen and I's 6th wedding anniversary.
yeah.
So we'd already been married 6 years when Heather and her husband got married, but Mom wasn't pressuring any of us to have kids, I didn't feel like. And then once Heather got married, then it was like, all y'all need to start having grandbabies. Like, it was like.
Well, and like I recall a story too of we had a girls' night and we were hanging out, and like I was cooking food with your sister. And she was like, yeah. So like I was talking to my boyfriend and I was like, I'm a little late and I'm like kind of worried about it. And my mom just looked at me like, are you pregnant? Like, and she didn't seem like any kind of like disappointed or like scared about it. Like she was like, okay, grandbabies now, you can do that.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to go from that, like, absolutely not, like, you stay protected, you don't have a baby right now, it's not, it's a huge, huge responsibility, and then to have to flip that switch and be like, you can actually do this, like, you can support a kid, you have good jobs, you're like, it's hard to make that switch because I don't think I was ever going to feel ready. And so whenever whenever Steve and I finally had, like, a really, sit down, because for the longest time we just weren't sure, and so I've had
it's a big decision.
It's huge. I mean, like, people, I don't take it lightly at all, and for people, and I've even had a couple people tell me, like, is this an oops baby? And I'm like, no, very much wanted, very much planned. I was like, it wouldn't be, not that there's anything wrong with an oops baby, like not that there's anything wrong with a baby that is a surprise and a blessing, and that's great. But I definitely think that, like, as the person who I am, I planned 4 years before I got a puppy. Like, before I got a puppy, I like planned it out 4 years, went to all, made sure that like that breeder was correct, everything was good, and then I went. But like then I picked out my puppy, and even the week leading up to getting the puppy, I was like, and even the week after getting the puppy, I was like, I don't know, this might have been a mistake. Like, it's hard to like make sure that it's the right decision. I mean, it's just a huge life altering thing. I mean, dogs are 15 to possibly 20 years. Kids are the rest of your life. Like, it's not, you know what I mean? It's not.
Or at least until they turn 18, but then it's.
No, I mean,
it's like,
consider it the rest of your life potentially. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but it's like, okay, what kind of relationship do you necessarily want with them?
Yeah,
and how exactly you're gonna handle that?
If they need you the rest of their life, if they're disabled or any kind of, if you really are their support system for the rest of their life, so you have to take that into consideration too. And that's always been, that weighs really heavy on my brain. Like, it could be something where they need you the rest of their life. So be ready to like take that on too if you get pregnant. Like,
well, yeah, and so people are like, oh, I want to have kids so I can make sure that my legacy lives on and I have somebody to take care of me when I'm old. Like,
that may not happen.
That's not exactly how that works out. And the more that you kind of like put that pressure on your kids, potentially the less likely that they are to do that.
Yeah.
Because they're like, because you can't necessarily put all of your hopes and dreams on your child.
Right.
Because like, oh, you wanted to be the big football star, but you broke your leg in high school and all of your hopes and dreams got dashed. But by golly, little Johnny, he's going to be a big football star just like his daddy was supposed to be. that's how little Johnny learns to resent football after a while.
Well, and I think sometimes like whatever's available to you is less likely to be your passion too, because like I was talking about this to someone else the other day. I was like, I train dogs and I love doing dog sports, and I would love for my kid to want to be in 4-H and and start dog sports like I did in 4-H. But in order to do that, we just had like an old farm dog laying around, and I was like, I'm gonna train him and see how that goes. And then I worked my way up to eventually getting a border collie, and then I trained that. Then I learned about that, and I was able to do that. But not having, it's not like I had someone, it's not like my parents were dog trainers. Like, it's not like they were already dog trainers. And then I was like, I also want to be a dog trainer like mom. Like, I'm not a nurse like my mom. I'm not a farmer like my dad. Like I'm not like a truck driver like my dad. So it's like, it's interesting to see like what's available to you isn't always what you're going to do. Even though like my sister loved horses, but like my parents made her take like years and years and years of horse riding lessons before they ever even thought about getting a horse, even though we lived on land and we had the ability to do it. They made sure that she, it
was
really,
going to be
really,
a legit commitment.
Yeah, she was really ready to do it.
Well, I mean, because the other thing with that too is like dogs are we'll put like a 7 to 15 year commitment on them, depending upon how long that dog manages to stick around. But horses still have a lot of life in them at 25.
Well, horses are a bigger commitment altogether because you have to have the barn and the land and the knowledge and the and my sister, like she's gonna go out of town and I'm gonna watch her dog for her. Anybody can watch a dog, but she has to find someone now to watch her horses, and that's a whole other game. Like that's a whole other thing, the level of trust for someone to watch your 1,000-something pound animal and several of them and hope that they can take care of them and know what to do and manage the fencing and everything else. And I'm just like that's why I'm glad that I didn't get into horses, because I know that it's huge. It's a lot to do. I mean, she bales her own hay and does all her own stuff. So,
and even if they don't live on your property and you send them to a boarding facility, it's, well, can you trust that boarding facility? How often do you need to poke your head in to make sure that they're being taken care of? Okay. And then to get us back on a topic, like babies, like your dogs are named, more could be considered dog names than people names.
Yeah.
Our dogs are definitely named people names.
Oh, yeah.
So before we had kids, we'd be out in public and we'd talk about our dogs and be like, oh, like if we were like having a conversation with you guys, be like, oh yeah, Clara's in her cage at home, she's fine. Oh, that's and nice. People would like turn and look at us like, wait, are they talking about a dog or are they talking about a person?
Yeah.
Because do I need to call CPS? Is this fine? Because
you can't just leave a kid in a crate when you leave.
I got some bad news for you,
Caroline.
There's a lot of court cases saying that you can't do that.
Are you serious? Man. I'm rethinking all of this now.
Yeah, it's super easy for us to find somebody to watch the dogs. I mean, it's relatively easy. But to like watch the kids, it's okay. Do I need to leave one of our cars with you so you have a way to transport the children?
The car seat situation freaks me out. It's just so much. Like, it's just so much to think about, having a big enough vehicle to have space in the car for a car seat and all the things you need to bring with you. And like the car seat situation intimidates me, and so does childcare in general. Like childcare intimidates me because we don't have close by family. So like our family, I mean, they're not crazy far away. They're an hour. They live in Dayton. All of our family lives in Dayton. So they're only an hour away from us here in Cincinnati. But I just think it's just hard. I think it's going to be tricky to not have that, like, oh, I can just drop them off at grandma's real quick, right down the road, and then
and even though
that way.
Our parents live pretty close
in your house.
And like, my mom lives in my house right now. So now it's a little bit different.
Yeah.
Because, the kids are in bed right now. Technically, Joe and myself could just hand them the baby monitors and go to a brewery or go to a bar and we're fine.
Yeah.
Now, we're not going to do that, though, because we need our sleep.
Right.
We're not going to stay out crazy late. But once the kids are down for the night, it's really hard to take them somewhere.
Yeah.
So it's hard to be like, okay, well, so like when I was pregnant with Elliot and Lily was little, a lot of the things that we talked with family was, what's our game plan? So if it's between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., whoever has the child gets the child and then is in charge of what's going on, because our parents would watch the kids during the day. So if it was mom's day to watch Lily, they would kind of, between her and Judy, they could figure out who was going to watch Lily overnight. But then if it was between 7 p.m. and 7 a.m., so the middle of the night, we would call my mom and my mom would come to our house. Because by that point, Lily's in bed or is about to go to bed. So you just need to get here before we leave so you can just be in the house while Lily's sleeping. And then in the morning, you guys can figure out what you want to do. We were very fortunate that it was a Friday in the middle of the day when I went to the hospital. So they figured out who would have her when and where. And honestly, when we were in the hospital, I didn't necessarily know who had Lily when or where she was, but I knew Mom had a car seat that she could take Lily around in, and Judy had a car seat that she could take Lily around in.
Yeah.
So even though they only had one car each, really, if they needed to, they had the keys to Joe's CRV so that they could have driven Joe's CRV around too if they needed. They had a way to safely transport her, and they knew how to take care of her. They knew what was going on. Everything was fine. But if we didn't have family nearby, I don't know what we would have done with Lily. It would have been like, oh, hey, Mom, you're going to like move in with us like 3 weeks before my due date, right? Which is essentially what happened to my boss.
Yeah.
Because his sister was pregnant. And so his mom moved in with him about a month before his sister was due. And then once they got closer to his sister's due date, then his mom moved in with his sister.
Well,
and so she was going to live with them for a few months because
Yeah.
she lives in Puerto Rico.
Oh,
And she was able to do remote
far.
teaching. Yeah, it was way too far for her to commute in
gonna
any
say,
sense of the word.
Because I was like, well, I mean, for my parents, it wouldn't be. I mean, if something happens, not something happens, but like whenever I go into the hospital to have the baby, an hour is not bad, and the dogs will be fine. But
Yeah.
you know, like for a second baby, then like you said, I mean, an
For a
hour-
second baby, it might be like you have like us on speed dial.
Yeah, we might have to have you guys.
And hey, Joe, you're going to wake up with the kids in the morning. I'm going to be sleeping at Stephen and Hillary's house, and I'll come over in the morning
Oh my
with another
gosh.
kid.
It's so crazy to think about.
Or like I'm just going to be there until morning when one of your guys' parents shows up to
yeah.
then take care of the kid. So they're not driving in the middle of the night to get to your house.
Yeah. Luckily my parents are pretty good about driving. They're not super weird about like my dad's has been a long haul semi driver, so he's pretty good about driving long distances, and my mom's like, to get anywhere in Farmersville, you have to drive 30 minutes anyways, so it's another 30. And I'm like, well, I hope you guys are okay with it, because I don't know what I'll do without like family support, because I know friends that don't have a lot of family support, and it's really, really hard.
Yeah, and you don't necessarily need a tight-knit family unit or a tight-knit friends group to be able to have a child.
Yeah.
It's something
Just harder.
that helps, but I mean, there are resources, and you can like find other people. So like there are some Cincinnati moms groups that I'm going to send to you that you can join.
That would be good.
One's more memes based.
I love it.
And like, I'm not necessarily going to, it's like not really like real world life advice, but like more non-judgmental. So like, hey, I caught my 15-year-old sneaking out. How should I take care of this? And you don't get as many Karens responding with what you should do. And then I have a mom's group that is more like, okay, don't kind of really say anything that could be construed as controversial in this group, or you're just going to get this post that blows up with all of this craziness.
The first Facebook group, well, not the first one, because I'm in several like breastfeeding groups to kind of get some input on that through one of the courses that I'm taking.
Mm-hmm.
But the first like parent Facebook group I've joined was one that I was invited to by one of my friends, who her husband's a Lutheran pastor, and so this is kind of like a Lutheran based. It's kind of a Lutheran based like Facebook group, but it's all like parenting advice stuff.
Yeah.
And it's been a good one, but it was interesting. I was like, what is this? I didn't realize it's called the Night Hooters. I am so confused by the title of their group, but like, yeah, it's like a Lutheran-based group. It's called the Night Hooters, and I just think it's really funny. And I'm like, okay. And then like they go through like anywhere from like babies to like you said, like teenagers, like all kind of parenting advice stuff. And that's been really fun to like see the different things that people like bring up and ask about and all that stuff.
I would say do not be afraid to drop a mom's group like a hot pan.
Yeah.
Because I was very hesitant to join a mom's group. And the first mom's group that I joined had bad moms in the title.
Oh, yeah.
Off of like the Bad Moms movie that came out.
Right.
And I was like, okay, I can handle this. But I had seen even before I got pregnant with Lily, I had seen posts of like new moms in my news feed where they're like, yeah, my kid was born in April of 2017. So I joined this April 2017 moms group, and I asked them what food I should be feeding my kids. And somebody said that I should feed them strawberries. And then like 20 moms commented on it saying how I was going to kill my kid if I fed him strawberries.
Oh no.
And I'm like that wasn't exactly what happened, but be like crazy stuff like that. It's like where they would like pretty much bring this mom to tears and be like, basically, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't.
Well, that's very true though. I mean, like I feel like I've been trained up to like not take anything on the internet personally a little bit. Like I mean, every once in a while you get fired up about something, right? But like the dog groups that I've joined, like I rarely post in like those big dog groups, because unless you are like really ready to like discuss anything, because a lot lot of times, whatever you're doing, there will be a million people that are like, "That's not right. You can't
Yeah.
do that. No off leash dog."
You
no this
post
and
a
that." You're like,
picture of your
"Ugh."
dog without a leash, you get yelled at. You post a picture of your dog with a leash, you get yelled
Yeah,
at.
True.
You post a picture and you say, I'm glad that I'm finally able to take my reactive dog on hikes because they got used to their muzzle. And you have 50 people yelling at you about
Yeah.
how you're abusing your dog for putting them in a muzzle that you have fit specifically to their head and makes it so they can actually interact with people and
Yeah.
you don't have to worry about it. It's like, okay, this is just dogs that we're talking about. We're not
Right.
even getting into a whole other person.
Right. Like kids are a whole nother ball game. And so I think that the dogs have been very helpful to like train me up, train Steven up too, because I've had dogs forever. And so it's been nice because I've been able to build my patience. I'm really nervous about my patience being less than it should be whenever it comes to having like super sleep deprived and can't hardly function because of a baby. Our 15-year-old dog is training us very well right now because she is like waking me up multiple times in the middle of the night and having to go out, and you know, you kind of have to pick her up because she falls down all the time, and it's been really hard. But like Steven said the other day, he's like, she's really training us for kids because he put her on her bed and sometimes she's unsettled or whatever. He put her on her bed and then he went and took a shower and she barked the entire shower and he's like, oh my goodness, like this is totally training me for a kid. And I was like, it really is. I mean, having dogs is a really good way of knowing like, where's your patience level? Can you work on things? Like I know that I've given him Teller, our younger dog, and I've been like, okay, try this, maybe do this, and then he'll just kind of give up because he's like, I don't know, you just do it. And I'm like, okay, so I gotta be careful how bossy I am. And I told him we're gonna be on more even playing, even though I work with kids, which is that may also kind of backfire a little bit. But like I told him, I was like, we are a little bit more on even playing ground here because it's not like I have 15 years of dog experience that I'm like, just do it like this, Steven, and it'll be fine. And then he gets frustrated versus, you know, I don't know, do whatever you think works with the kid because I don't know either. Like, you and me and newborns, we're all new to this. So it's going to be really interesting.
Well, and so before you leave the hospital, they're going to ask you, does the baby have a safe place to sleep? Does like the baby have clothes? And they're going to ask you what seemingly weird question of, do you have guns in your house? And like they just asked me that at Lily's 2-year checkup as well. Like, hey, like no smokers in the house. Like she's not around any smokers, right? Because third-hand smoke is a thing. So first-hand smoke is I'm smoking a cigarette. Second-hand smoke is I am sitting next to someone who is smoking a cigarette. Third-hand smoke is a smoker comes into your house no longer smoking a cigarette, but they still have smoke on them.
Wow.
And that's dangerous for kids.
Oh.
Because they're so new.
Yeah.
But then they're also going to ask you whether or not you have any guns in the home.
Oh, wow.
Because they want to make sure that if you do, they're stashed away safe.
Yeah.
And like they're not loaded, or if they are loaded, we haven't been asked any super personal questions about them. But like the big thing is if you have guns in your home, like by all means, exercise your Second Amendment rights. You do you, but make sure that it is not just out of reach, that it is locked up. Only you and people who know how to use it are able to get to it.
Yeah.
Because even recently, there was a story of a mom on a Zoom call talking to a colleague, and all of a sudden the colleague hears a loud bang.
Oh my God.
And mom falls back.
What?
Toddler had found her gun.
Oh my God.
And shot her. And this was like,
okay? Did she
no.
die?
Yes.
Oh my God.
It was terrible.
Whoa. What?
Sorry, what peanut gallery?
It is really dark, but hey,
It is. Yeah, Joe is saying that it's dark, and it is very dark. But
it is. But I mean, like that is always what scares me more.
You don't want to be a statistic.
Yeah, because I remember Stephen and I when we went to Heather's house one night, and we went just when she lived by herself. Now she's married and has a husband, lives with him. But we went around to the side of her house. It was dark. It was in the middle of the night. I think she knew we were gonna stop by, but anyway, we walked the side of her house to her bedroom door. We tap on her window just to freak her out, and bad idea.
Yeah.
Because then we come to the front door, and she turns on the light, and like she's got a big like window in her front door. She turns on the light, and she's holding her gun like this. She's like,
okay, so
waves it at us, and we're like, oh.
For those of us who aren't part of our premier Patreon supporters that have video, Hillary is miming the gun pointed up and away from it, like pointing up towards the air,
at us, but
not
she was
out
like,
the window.
She was like, "I've got it. Like I have a gun, and you guys shouldn't scare me." Like, because she definitely was like freaked out. She didn't realize that it was us, and so she went and got her gun, and then went to the front door. And it was like, oh, okay, well, you know what? That's,
You have to be careful about what you do in the country.
Oh, I know. Well, yeah. I mean, anywhere really. I can't imagine. Like, oh, it's all scary. So it's interesting that they'll ask you that question. Do they ask you if you have pets too?
Yes.
Do they?
So like they know that we have 2 dogs. They'll also ask like if they have any siblings.
Yeah.
The other thing is they'll make sure that you have a safe way to get the kid home.
Yeah. Like
So
a good car seat.
yeah. Well,
So
like
fun.
they don't even necessarily care.
Oh.
But like as far as like they're not going to inspect your car seat. They want to make sure that you have a car seat and that your child is in the car seat before you leave the hospital.
I was gonna say that you have to have one though, because like you
Yes.
said, they have to be able to sit. They have to be able to sit for so long in the car seat.
Yeah. So my story, 10 out of 10 would recommend doing a hospital tour.
I hope
If they let
Caroline,
they let you do
I
them.
hope they do, because I'm so nervous.
What
about
hospital
that.
are you delivering at?
Good Sam.
Okay.
I just
we
hope
can
they do
we
because
can
of
cover a lot
COVID.
of that just between the two of us.
I was gonna say, luckily you
But-
can hopefully tell me some stuff, but yeah.
So we're doing our hospital tour. Good news, hospital we deliver at super locked down.
Okay.
As far as like making sure that everyone's safe. Like they will put, if you ask, they will put code words to things.
Oh.
So like if you have a mother-in-law who is like, I'm gonna be in that delivery room, you can't say boo about it. Well, there's 3 layers between her getting in the door and getting to you. You can tell the nurse like, hey, I do not want her here. And they'll give her some BS reason just to like semi throw her off the scent if you want her to, or they'll just like blatantly kick them out.
Was your mother-in-law like wanting to be in there with you?
No. So
That's good. I feel like that's so intrusive for someone to be like, I want to see everything and do. It's so intrusive. Like if you're comfortable with that person, that's fine. But like if you're not, there's no reason. You tell them to lay on a bed for hours and you get to observe them half naked and pooping and whatever else.
Yeah.
Like I mean, like that's just not right. Like I don't know.
So going back to the hospital. So you have to go through a locked door to even get to the mom and baby, to even get to the labor and delivery ward. And then you don't know who's in what room. So if you even manage to get through that locked door, good luck figuring out what room they're in. If you don't already know. And then as soon as your kid is born, like they have written out all of these bracelets. So they have bracelets, they have adult size bracelets and they have baby size bracelets. And so it starts off with like your name and patient number and baby and then a blank. And so with Lily, we didn't know what we were having. With Elliot, we knew. So I think they already wrote baby boy on all of the tags. But as soon as Lily was born, they put girl on all of the tags. And in the system, it was baby girl Caroline. So my name was attached to her name. Like nothing was Lily until she had been in the NICU for like 4 days. But they put a bracelet on her. No, they put 2 bracelets on her, and they put a bracelet on me and a bracelet on Joe that all have the same identifying number on it. So like when Lily was in the NICU, we had to use that identifying number to actually get into the NICU. But one of the bracelets that they put on Lily or on your baby is basically like a mini ankle bracelet that you put on criminals.
Oh.
So anytime one of those bracelets leaves labor and delivery, if it's turned on, like if it's activated, the whole place locks down.
Wow.
And they, like when we were doing our hospital tour, the nurse was like, yeah, I made that mistake once and then I never made it again.
Oh man. Took a baby out the wrong way or something.
Yeah, so she forgot to like say, here, I'm checking this baby out to then check the baby back in up on mom and baby floor. And they don't even like really declare what floor is mom and baby. If you know the hospital, you know what floor is mom and baby. But if you don't know the hospital, you don't know.
That hospital is such a maze.
It is,
like,
which is a benefit and sometimes it's a detriment.
Yeah.
But
God.
as long as you get to the right elevator, you're okay.
Oh yeah. I mean,
So with Lily had a lot of issues. Because the oxygen station wasn't working well in the little room attached to the labor room, because the labor room is like their labor suites are nice. They're huge. You've got lots of space. With Lily, I walked the floors. Like I walked big loops around labor and delivery outside of my room until I couldn't do it anymore. And then I got an epidural and I was stuck in bed. With Elliot, I was just in the room the whole time. Joe would leave the room to get me popsicles, but I was always in the room. I didn't go anywhere.
Could you bring, I told Steven, I was like, I'm not really a fan of popsicles, but I really like lemon ice, like these lemon ice cups. Like
you have to talk to your doctor.
Yeah.
That's between you and your
I
doctor's
just think it's
office.
annoying because, like, I asked my doctor the other day, and I was like, so, like, what are the restrictions? Like, I want to write a birth plan, and my mom was like, as a mother baby nurse, was like, if you write a birth plan, you'll be a C-section. Basically saying, like, if you try to plan anything,
If you try to plan everything, you're not going to get anything that you want.
and that's not the reason I want to write a birth plan at all. Like, the reason I want to write a birth plan is so that way I'm prepared for, like, the process of what's going to happen. Like, at this point, they'll ask you, do you want this? And I have an answer for that. Or at this point, they're going to ask you, do you want this? And I have an answer for that. If something changes, I understand, because obviously things change all the time in labor and delivery. Like, you just don't know how your journey is going to be. But, like, it's not that I want to control everything, or I want to have, like, I want to say, no, absolutely not. I will never do an epidural, because, like, my goal is to give birth naturally, but so far all I've seen is all my friends doing an epidural, doing, you know, other intervention, having to do other interventions. And so I'm not like real hopeful that I'll get what I want, but at the same time, I know the older generations have been able to do, you know, to do it without the epidural. And I think if I can stay home long enough, I'll be able to do the epidural, but I don't know what that looks like I don't know what my labor is going to look like. Like, my mom said that for Heather, she was like 36 hours worth of labor. She was like, by the time Heather came out, I wanted to smack her myself. She was like, took her so long to come out, but she said, you know, it was like she had pretty long labor with both Heather and I. And so I'm like, well, if I have to gauge it off my mom, then, you know, maybe I'll be longer, but I don't know. With like some friends have been like 16 hours and, like, you know, like really shorter labors.
It really depends. So like I was induced both times, but that was because
Yeah.
my blood pressure was elevated.
Right.
So whether or not you give the hospital your entire birth plan, I would kind of caution against doing that. I would more say have an open dialogue with your husband
Yeah.
and say, this is what my plan is. Write it down if you want to.
Yeah.
Whatever makes you feel more comfortable. But I wouldn't necessarily hand a stack of papers to a nurse and say, this is what my plan is.
Well, it'll be a one-page thing. Like, it's not going to be like a stack of papers. And also, it is mainly for Steven, because I feel like I don't want him to feel overwhelmed with, like, answering questions if he's not prepared to answer those questions. Because we've talked before, and it's not that he's very good at remembering things and whatever else, but I just feel like this is kind of out of his comfort zone.
Yeah,
like,
and in the heat of the moment,
right,
you never know.
and I don't know what I'll be able to, like, inform him of or say or tell him. So if he's got a guideline, then that'll be good. And my doctor did say, you know, the doctor. So I've got 4 doctors in my OBG in practice. The one
I have
that
6 or 7.
No,
So
4. But then I was like, oh, am I going to meet this 4th doctor? Because I've only met these 3. And this doctor was like, well, I mean, you can schedule with her, but, like, on the day, there's 10 total doctors that you could potentially have delivering you. And I was like, oh, so it doesn't even matter.
yeah,
I was like, so it doesn't matter that I meet anybody, because
you might not even,
I
like,
might not-
odds are very low that you'll get one of those people.
yeah, I was like, okay. And so it's fine. I mean, I just thought
It's fine.
No, it's fine, Caroline. It's fine. Like, no, but so I thought, okay, well, whatever. Anyway, I'm hoping that. So then my doctor said, so I was like, okay, well, that's good to know. At least I don't have to feel like I have to meet all these doctors, because obviously I won't be able to.
Yeah.
And so whatever. My mom was like, well, it's the nurses that end up delivering you pretty much anyways. And I was like, well, yeah, that's probably true.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you pretty much deal with the nurses more than you deal with a doctor.
Yeah.
So
And
like, okay. And then she said, if you do make a birth plan, we do want to see it before you were to, like, bring it to the hospital. And I was like, oh yeah. I was like, totally. Because I want you guys to tell me, like, this is unrealistic.
Yeah.
We can't do this. This is not for a hospital birth, you know, whatever. Like,
yeah. And
I
there,
want to be honest with me. I don't want to be like, I don't want to be told, you know, I'm not sitting here being like, I want this crazy whatever, and then throw a fit if they can't do it. Like, obviously I want to check it out with them, and if they want to read over it, then that's great. So
yeah. And so, like, coming back to the hospital tour, which is what we started off talking about, the hospital where you're going to deliver, they have in-suite showers. I never used them though, but they also apparently have, like, a mobile bathtub. And if you want to labor at all in the mobile bathtub, like, you have to request that as soon as you get there, because 1, they might not have it available, or 2, the thing takes forever to fill up. So you basically want them to start filling that thing up while they're working on actually getting you checked in.
I want to do that just for the fact of doing it. Like,
Yeah.
I want to experience that. I don't know. But at the same time, I wonder how much extra that costs. Like, do you think that's,
I don't
like,
know.
I'd be curious. That's
I'd
something
assume
I
it
should
costs
ask.
more.
Well, I should
don't-
ask about that, because, like,
I don't think your doctor's office would necessarily know though, because that's going to be on the hospital.
Well,
So
but I mean, I could ask the hospital. I mean, I don't
so again, we're going to bounce around like
know.
crazy on this.
Oh yeah.
Sorry, Joe. Love you so much. Good luck editing this.
Yeah.
you're going to end up getting one bill, but it's going to be your doctor's office and the hospital.
Yeah.
If possible, pay your bill in full. Call. Don't just write a check and send in your bill. One, wait until you get the second bill, because sometimes it takes insurance a while to process things.
Yeah.
If I would have paid Elliot's bill right after I got it, I would have ended up paying like $600 more than I paid, because
Why?
insurance hadn't finished processing everything.
Oh, okay.
So, and I don't know if I would have gotten that money back.
Yeah.
So it's not, again, not financial advice, but it's not until like the third or fourth bill that they actually start thinking about sending you to collections. So give
right.
insurance,
Yeah.
give insurance some time to go through all of their things, and the hospital might need to tweak some codes because, oh, we coded this wrong. That's why insurance isn't taking it.
Mm-hmm.
But if you can pay in full over the phone, you can say, hey, I heard there was a discount if I pay in full. And they're not necessarily able to discount your doctor's office, but they can discount the hospital bill up to like 30%, depending upon how much your bill is. So with Lily, I saved a few grand. And with Elliot, I saved $1,000 or $2,000, maybe a little bit more, because I paid the bill in full.
That's fascinating, Caroline.
And insurance doesn't need to know about that. Insurance does not care how you pay your hospital bill. They just say that this is what portion of your hospital bill you're responsible for. So let's say my deductible was $7,000. It wasn't. But let's say my deductible was $7,000. I ended up paying the hospital closer to like $5,000 for Lily. Because since I paid in full, they were like, oh yeah, we can give you a 20% discount on this stuff, a 25% discount on this stuff, and whatever discount on this stuff. So really your total is going to end up being way less than what you originally thought it was going to be.
Oh my gosh, I can't even imagine. I think it's just so different too.
Well,
for
and
everybody's different insurance, different billing, different. Ugh.
Yeah. So the other thing with like having a birth plan is it's better to be informed about like what all of the different scenarios are. So with both Lily and Elliot, I was induced. So I was under continual fetal monitoring.
Yeah.
That meant I had 2 different monitors on my stomach at all times. One that was checking my uterus for contractions, and the other one that was checking baby's heartbeat.
You had to have it as soon as you got Pitocin?
Yes.
Ugh.
Because they wanted to make sure that baby was doing okay.
Right.
With Lily, for the most part, it was all external monitors until after I got my epidural. Then they changed to an internal monitor, which I didn't care about at that point because I couldn't feel anything, which is like actually like a wire type thing that they actually stick between like baby and your uterus to monitor, because they can like monitor baby's heartbeat on their head.
Wow. That's fascinating.
With Elliot, though, my stomach was so round, his monitor kept falling. So they weren't able to like really have a good heartbeat for him. So even before I was dilated, I had an internal monitor with him, which was weird.
Yeah.
Because they like tape it to your leg, and I was trying to figure out like how to walk around and how to go to the bathroom with this extra monitor on me that I wasn't used to.
Wow.
Elliot was fine. So they might have let me go off of the monitors for a bit with Elliot if I had like asked, hey, can we disconnect these for like 20 minutes or so I can just stand under a shower?
Yeah.
And just like let water wash over me. I always had to be hooked up to an IV drip.
That's also something interesting, because that's when I was talking to my doctor, sorry to like kind of go off.
You're fine.
But when I was talking to my doctor, she said, there's a couple things that you have to do when you come in the hospital. Once you're admitted, no food or water.
Correct.
Or whatever, or clear liquids only. So once you're admitted, no food, clear liquids only, which I disagree with.
Lots of people disagree with it because you need some kind of fuel to help you through labor. But their thing is, if we have to run to the emergency C-section, we want there to be less likely of you turning into aspirating on something.
I know. I mean, I understand the reasoning. I just think
so. Like, if you were to labor at home,
right,
you can do whatever you want.
Yeah. So labor at home as long as possible is the real name of the game there, right?
And a lot of my mom friends are like, on your way to the hospital, like stop at Wendy's, stop at McDonald's, stop somewhere, and just shove your face full of food on your way to the hospital.
It's just anyway. So I don't like that. But she said, that's the protocol. Whatever. Okay. Many women have done it. You did it. Like whatever. So there's that. Then you get there and they're like, we have to put you on an IV right away. Okay, I understand the reasoning behind it, but like everything that I'm reading is like anything can stall your labor. Like any kind of like little like, so you're going to the hospital and then you're like under these weird lights and you're like, and I've had IVs before. Like I know what the deal is. I don't like the feeling of them just because it makes your whole arm, like when you're getting that liquid pumped into your
It's
system,
interesting. After a while, you forget about it.
I just don't like it because it's cold, how cold it gets. Like whenever I did it, I remember my arm just being so cold. But like my mom was talking to me about like you could also do like an IV block. Like you could do like they could put something in and then they could block it.
So
I don't know if they would allow that though.
this is where you come back to your birth plan.
Yeah.
So and a lot of it's going to depend on how you end up going to the hospital.
Right.
Maybe at this point we're talking more about birth than we're talking about pregnancy.
Yeah. I think it's just been on my mind. Like, I mean, like
and
now that
that's fine. And we'll rename this episode.
we can go back too because I've got my different sections, but I know it's hard.
This is where we are, and that's fine.
Yeah.
So this goes back to your birth plan, and it depends on how you are going to the hospital. Are you going to the hospital because your doctor says you are going into triage because XYZ symptom, you're not actively in labor? Maybe we're going to admit you, maybe we're not, but we at least want to send you to triage to monitor you at the hospital. So if we do want to take you to labor and delivery, we can do that.
Mm-hmm.
Or are you going in because you are in active labor?
That's my hope, right? But
yeah,
like, I
that's
know
your hope.
People are like, so many people go past, what is it, like 41 weeks and then...
41 weeks, again, it depends on your doctor and it depends on your hospital. At 41 weeks, if you haven't had the kid, that's when they will work on scheduling your induction.
Ugh.
And normally, schedule induction means your kid's going to come like the day before your induction's scheduled.
I hope so. That'd be.
But it could also mean that your kid just is stubborn and wants to stay there.
I worry about that too. But it's all the stuff I've been reading and researching. And it's like, I guess I'm in the natural woo-woo.
So here's the thing.
Things.
If you have any inkling that you want, no matter what, when you get to the hospital, if they're going to admit you to labor and delivery, or your triage nurse thinks that there's a better than 50% chance that they're going to send you to labor and delivery, they're going to stick you for an IV.
Mm-hmm.
So I got stuck for an IV twice with Elliot before I got admitted, and then only once with Lily before I got admitted. So like I got stuck for an IV, and then I got sent home.
Wow.
Like they pulled out the IV line and said, you're going home.
Ugh.
And one of the reasons why was because like one of my nurses was like, well, if I stick you for an IV, they're going to send you home because that's what they've been doing for all of my patients. But I think based on what I'm seeing, they're going to keep you. And then It's like, oh, nope, we went home.
Where'd they stick it? They stick
it in your wrist.
And,
so
like
just it's like on your forearm.
Yeah.
Like it's on the inside part. If you're laying with your arm on the table, like with your hand facing down, it's like within like 3 or 4 inches of your wrist joint.
Yeah.
So they try to avoid like anything in your hand or your elbow, because they want to make sure that you still have full range of motion of your arms. So if you aren't getting epidural, like you can squat, you can go hands and knees, you can do just about anything and be comfortable and not have to worry about an IV line.
So that's my next point. So this doctor that I'm talking to was like, you need clear liquids only, you have to get an IV, you have to deliver on the bed, which I thought was fascinating.
That might be more of a safety thing. I don't know.
She's like, there's just really not like anywhere else you can deliver. I was like, on the floor? I was like, you guys can't like be a little bit flexible? I was like,
So here's the thing too, like you're probably picturing a standard hospital bed.
Yeah.
These hospital beds are insane.
Are they?
So it's really like 3 pieces. So you have like your standard foot in your back. So your back goes up and down,
mm-hmm.
your foot goes up and down, but the whole like second half of your legs, that just completely goes down and away.
Oh, okay.
So you end up with like 2/3 or 3/4 of a hospital bed instead of a full hospital bed. They can lay it flat. They can lay it at a super angle. They can attach all this stuff to it. So like if you want to labor in a squat position,
yeah,
they can stick a squat bar on your bed.
Oh, can they?
And you can squat on your bed, but they can also lift the back of your bed up so you can be in a squat position semi-leaning against the back of your bed.
Okay.
So you're not necessarily having to hold up all of your weight.
Right.
And like if you want to take a pause, you can lean back.
Yeah.
So it'd be nice if you could get a hospital tour because they'll kind of cover all of the different things that your bed can do.
Well, because my doctor was basically like, you either have to give birth on your back or sideline. And I was like,
and part of that depends on your doctor too.
God, I hope I don't have this one because she just acted like there's nothing. She just acted like she acted like, oh, there's really not this many restrictions. But then when she says you can only give birth sideline or on your back, I'm like, well, I heard it's terrible to give birth on your back.
That might be if you have an epidural.
Right. I mean, well, this sounded like it was like almost, it sounded like maybe she's not experienced many people giving birth without an epidural. That's
very possible too.
And that's why I'm like, oh gosh, like I really want to give birth naturally, but like nobody I know of that does it these days gives birth naturally. And it's like, is it women these days? Isn't that terrible? Is it women these days? Is it the doctors? Is it the pressure from nurses? Is it what is it? Why are people not giving birth naturally? Like,
I am all on team drugs. Now, part of that is because like I have not had natural contractions other than like Braxton Hicks.
Okay.
Because I had some Braxton Hicks with Elliot. I don't really think that I had any with Lily.
And when you said you don't have natural contractions, it's because you were induced for both. So you had like Pitocin.
I had Pitocin contractions, which I have been told
are
worse than natural contractions.
Yeah.
Whether or not that's true, I don't know because I don't have any baseline to compare it to.
Right.
So with Lily, I was induced about 11 p.m. and I made it until about 4 o'clock in the morning until I was like, no, like 1, I'm tired. 2, this hurts and like I could manage to deal with this, but I don't really want to if I don't have to because I was only like maybe 4 or 5 centimeters at that point, and I was probably going more into transition labor at that point.
Yeah.
So I was going to start dilating more, but that's also when your contractions become more intense.
Yeah.
But I was like, I've been up all night. I don't know if I keep going like this, if I'm going to have the energy to push.
Were you hungry?
No. I mean, at that point, like
You were in so much pain, like you wouldn't have wanted food.
I mean, you're in such a like different frame of mind as well. Like,
gotcha.
Food isn't necessarily on your isn't like the forefront of your mind.
Right.
It's more like I probably need to eat, but like I have enough fat stores that I don't really have to worry about it.
Okay.
And then like an hour after you give birth, you're like, man, I'm starving. I could eat a horse. And then you eat like 5 bites of food and you're like, I'm done. Part of it's because it's hospital food, but the other part of it is like my body just went through so much.
Right.
It like needs time to process what it is that I want to give it.
Yeah. And I don't want to be high and mighty about like anything because I know that anything can happen, right? And I don't want to be
So it was a rush between the doctor to come to break my waters and the anesthesiologist to start my epidural with Lily. The doctor won. So like my waters got broken at like 4:30 in the morning. I requested an epidural, I want to say at like 4 or 4:15, but I don't think I got it until closer to 5 o'clock in the morning.
So she wasn't progressing enough, or did you request your water being broke?
That was what the doctor said she was going to do. If my water didn't break by 4 o'clock in the morning when she came, I guess I might have been their only patient that was in labor.
See, all this just sounds
because
like
I'm not sure if she was at the hospital.
It just all sounds like it's for the doctor's like convenience. You know
what
I mean?
And
like,
a lot of it
so
is, but it also, that's what really sped up my labor because I was induced.
I know, but also it makes me nervous because you could have had Lily without your water breaking, right? Like babies can be born still in the amniotic sac, right?
Yes. And sometimes that does still happen.
And that would have been better for her because she aspirated the meconium. No?
It wouldn't have made a difference.
Oh.
With Lily, that would not have made a difference at all.
Okay.
Because she was in it so long. It wouldn't have made it that wouldn't have done anything at all.
Okay.
For Lily.
That's fair. I thought maybe she did it on the way out or did it because things.
No. So what it was she had pooped at some point before she was born. And typically, like speculation is that it was like 1 to 2 weeks before she was born.
Wow.
Where she had her first poop. Now, whether or not that's accurate, I don't know.
Right.
But from talking to other people who had gone through things similar to Lily and other nurses there, they had never seen an instance where it was in all of her lungs.
Oh, wow.
Normally it's in the upper like third or quarter of their lungs. She had it all down her chest.
Wow.
So it wouldn't have made a difference whether or not, if they wouldn't have broken my waters, it wouldn't have made a difference.
That's just so crazy to me that she did that like that doesn't happen to all babies.
You never know. And so like with Elliot, one of the reasons why they induced me was my blood pressure. The other was because
you were a hot mess.
I was a little bit of a hot mess.
I was like, not that there's anything wrong with that because I would have been too after Lily.
I didn't want to go past my due date with Elliot if I could avoid it.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want the same thing to happen to him that happened to her.
All right. Thank you, Hillary, for coming on to the podcast and talking to Caroline all about pregnancy and the like. But tune in soon because there's a part 2 of this conversation that we will release soon.
Yep. What exactly is in the part 2 is an adventure, and you will go on that adventure with us when you listen to the episode.
So now it is time for Joe's Dad Joke of the Week. All right.
Yay.
Are you ready?
I'm never ready, but go ahead.
All right. Why did the Scarecrow win an award?
I don't know. Why?
Because he was outstanding in his field. Admit it, it's funny.
So funny. I'm laughing so hard over here right now.
Well, the audience seems to like it. Cue the applause.
Why did I let you buy that?
That does it for this week's show. Thanks so much for listening. We want to hear from you. If you have ideas for a show topic, if you have comments about a previous show, perhaps you liked it, or maybe you learned something new. There are many ways to get in touch with us. You can send us an email at craftparentingpodcast@gmail.com. You can follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Craft Parenting Podcast to get updates on when new episodes have dropped, see pictures of our adorable kids, and more.
If you like what you hear, please leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or your podcatcher of choice. Make sure to share the show with your friends, your family, your neighbor down the street. It's what helps our show grow. You can also send us stuff to our awesome P.O. box.
All this information is available on our website, which is www.craftparentingpodcast.com. So go check it out.
We will post the show notes up there. Plus, I've been writing lots of blog posts about some of the stuff that doesn't make it into the podcast. For example, Elliot just turned 7 months old. There's a blog post for it.
If you haven't already done so, make sure you subscribe to the show. We are listed on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and just about every platform out there. And with that, I'm Joe.
And I'm Caroline.
See you next time on the Craft Parenting Podcast. Peace.
As long as
So
you can hear me, it's great too.
we are officially recording now. We have hot mics.
Awesome. Hot.
Feeling hot, hot, hot. Ba-dum.
I should be talking
Ba-ba-da-ba-ba.
about all of the things, and that way you can
Ba-da-ba-da-ba, feeling
hear
hot,
me
hot,
and
hot.
do the sound testing and
Yeah,
make sure that we're
we sound
up
okay,
to
and
snuff and
that there's not a whole lot of mic bleed
that our
between
mics
our
are
two
hot, hot, hot.
microphones.
Hot, hot, hot.
Ba-da-ba. I can hear her fine.
I don't know if I can hear myself or not. It's maybe, I don't know. So these headphones feel like they're slightly different than. I mean, you sound great, Caroline. I just don't know that I don't know if I'm hearing myself just because I've got the headphones on. I don't know. Wow, how many messages did you guys send us? I'm trying to look back for the link. There it is. You sent me a link in my email. I couldn't find it again. Okay.
Oh, it says you're on it.
It says if it says I'm good, then that's fine. I don't think it's
Yeah.
gonna be a problem. I mean, can you play it back and see if we sound okay, or do you want to does it matter to you?
How do I do that? So I hit the record button. Okay.
Joe's like, I feel weird relinquishing all directorial duties to Caroline.
Well, really, the executive producer of our podcast is Elliot.
Oh.
So he's the one who helped schedule this event.
Gotcha. That's right.
If you remember,
I do
correctly.
remember. Made sure that we made time between his nursings and different things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really, his schedule is the most important out of everybody in our household.
Yeah. I can believe that.